Selamat datang to all our friends who've joined us from Malaysia and Indonesia. Thank you for all that love and thank you for joining us here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sangeeta Singh, your virtual host and moderator for Web Talk series, brought to you by Asia One Magazine and URS International Media House. Well, a big thank you to this wonderful family of Asia One, all our followers, our supporters, to have joined us time after time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as all of you know that week after week, we at Asia One, it has been our constant endeavor to bring you some very pertinent topics, discussions, ideas, and thoughts, all coming in from some great minds and great leaders. Yes, they have deliberated, advocated, and of course, presented a thoughtful view on very prevalent issues on our personal and of course our professional lives. All of us know that each one of us have been completely bogged down by this crisis. There is lots that is going through our head, our heart and our minds. But our leaders have simply empowered us with some great ideas and great knowledge. So with that, a big thank you to all the leaders who've been joining us. A big thank you to all of you for enriching our Web Talk series. Ladies and gentlemen, today I welcome you to the 13th episode of Web Talk series, wherein yet again we have a very wisely chosen topic, embracing technology, the emergence of e-learning as the new norm of 2020. Very much like this virtual event, yes, even virtual education has emerged as a crisis management in this lockdown. Well, I'm going to be coming to that a little later from now. But before that, as all of us know, that in these times of crisis, Asia One and its entire family has been proactive. When I say proactive, we have the web series, just the perfect way to reach out, adapting to the new normal very swiftly and very quickly. And similarly, ladies and gentlemen, even the TV space has been totally taken care of. Yes, I talk about, as all of us know that I did talk about that we have announced a television series, greatest brands and leaders of 2019-20 in association with CNBC TV 18 here in India. As all of us know, Saturdays we've been featuring some amazing brands and leaders. So as you can see that, very much, as you can see there on my screen right there, well. It's not only about being visible on TV in India, but talking about Bangladesh, we are there on News 24. Yes, in association with News 24, ladies and gentlemen, we started telecasting these wonderful stories. We started telecasting, the greatest brands and leader stories 2019-20. And if you thought this was it, no, let me tell you, we are happy to announce now our association with ZTV. We will be featuring, yet again, ladies and gentlemen, let me just reiterate this for you. We will be featuring our greatest brand and leader episodes on ZTV, which will be catering to the entire Middle East and North Africa. So yes, India on CNBC TV 18, Bangladesh, News 24, entire Middle East and North Africa, who will be there on ZTV. So yes, all the leaders who joined us here and the leaders who've been associated with us in the past, and of course, are our strong family. It's your opportunity, your chance to be out there and address to the nations, to be visible to the nations that you wish to be: India, Bangladesh, Middle East, and of course, entire North Africa. With that, tomorrow is the day wherein once again you'll be seeing our next episode on greatest brands and leaders. With that, I'm going to be showing you this promo very quickly. Let's have the promo, please.
Greatness is defined by the leaders who wield it. A brand is a culmination of groundbreaking ideas and impeccable execution. URS Asia One presents Greatest Brands and Leaders 2019-20. At these times,
So yes, as you can see that great greatest brands and leaders to be telecasted tomorrow on CNBC TV 18. So I hope all of you are set for this. I can go on and on, but now getting back to the wonderful topic that we have today to be deliberated, to be discussed, and to be talked about, embracing technology, the emergence of e-learning as the new normal of 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, yes, this entire planet has been ravaged by crisis. The world has come to a complete standstill and shut down. But moreover, let me tell you, there are more than yes, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, 1.2 billion students who are out of the classroom. That is crazy, isn't it? So we can actually see that, online education has actually emerged as the new normal for over 300 million students across the world. Talking about India, we can see that, yes, in India, this was actually like an underutilized supplementary option. And today it is actually becoming the new normal for all of us. Suddenly, we are seeing that a lot of schools or higher education institutions are increasingly adapting to this process. Also, let me make a mention that the strong support of the Indian government over the last 30 days has actually escalated the penetration of online education at lightning speeds. It seems like a new reality has dawned all upon us. Yes. So I hope we're all set to really kind of get our pie out of it. We are all set to make the best out of it and turn around this entire situation. Talking about the education sector growth, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually looking at some, almost about 1.96 million. That is going to be the growth in 2020. Talking about the Indian market, let me tell you, it's when it comes to education, India is apparently the second largest consumer, in massive online open courses. So here we are, and today we have some amazing minds to share their thoughts, their ways of innovation into the field of learning and education. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to introduce you to our speakers here with us. We've got here Dr. Vishwa Mohan Bansal, the chairman, New Delhi Institute of Management. A big hello to you, sir. Namaste. Kaise hain aap? How are you doing, sir?
Thank you. Thanks so very much. Kind of you to have invited me. Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. We're also joined by Mr. Rajat Shukl, our global head and principal partner, Asia One Magazine. A very, very warm welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I also welcome all the speakers today. Thank you, Sangeeta.
And sir, before we move on to introducing my next set of speakers here, of course, few words for all our followers. We've got some amazing people from across the world, today registered for this webinar. Your words for them, your message for everybody out there, for this big, amazing family of Asia One.
I'd like to say that maybe this is, maybe the 13th or 14th edition of the Web Talks. And this is a topic which is very, very close to, I think, every individual, not only as an educator, but as a parent as well. And, it's important, and we have such glorious people today with us, and I'm sure it's going to be an enriching experience. And having said this, this topic is a very big need of the hour to understand that what is the future of e-learning, maybe what has been the past, and, how long does it go? And if it's an enabler, let's have it for a longer time. Maybe the pandemic is going to give us so many opportunities, as Dr. Periwal was also saying earlier. And let's see how we can enrich from this opportunity as well. So I look forward to an enriching session. Thank you, Sangeeta.
How true, and how rightly said that, yes, it could actually be something like this, that the education may perhaps, be seen as post-COVID and pre-COVID in the years to come. And like you very rightly said, a great viability on online learning. With that, let me bring on our next speaker. We have here with us Ms. Jayashree Periwal, Chairperson, Jayashree Periwal International School. A very warm and hearty welcome, ma'am. Ma'am, could you just unmute yourself, ma'am?
Thank you so much, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be always here on this wonderful platform of Asia One.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. We're also joined here by Mr. Biju Sudarshan, Chairman, Vikasa Group of Schools. A very warm and hearty welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Sankita. Thank you for having me here, and good afternoon to all the viewers and all my fellow panelists.
And let me also introduce you to our next speaker and say a big hello to our engineer, Mr. Mehendi Hassan, Group Chairman and CEO, Omicron Group. A very warm and hearty welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me here. Thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're also joined by Mr. Raditya Sharma, Principal, Saina International School. A big hello and namaste to you, sir. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sangeeta. It's a platform where we can definitely share our views, and also it's a learning for us also. And definitely this pandemic is bringing in so many changes. So what type of changes the schools will have, that is something we need to look into, and what the past has been and what the future would be. Let's hope we'll get something good out of it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, great learning. So ladies and gentlemen, here are all our speakers. As you can see, they are all set to educate us and in turn learn a lot from this very enriching webinar. So let me very, very quickly begin with Dr. Bansal. Sir, my first question to you, it's all about technology. Well, technology has actually, overtaken almost all the sectors in today's time, and therefore management graduates are required to be technically proficient. So do you really think that with e-learning, the students will be able to get hands-on experience of leading technically centered firms at a very, very young age to perform better in the future?
Sangeeta, you have touched something extremely important, and something which is, as Rajatji mentioned, it's there in everybody's mind, in everybody's thought, and the whole world, I would say, not just India and its educators, but everybody across the world is working at it, not just thinking of it, because this has become the necessity, and this has become, I don't say just the word new norm, it's become a part of us now. Okay, so every day for the last at least 80 days we have been, like you are doing a great job, we have been having very senior people from the industry, the real recruiters. 3 days back we had Ajay Piramal of Piramal Group on our platform. So everybody is saying only one thing, and that's a message I would like to take to my listeners and the viewers today. So everybody says that yesterday's skills were relevant for yesterday's living. So for tomorrow's living, you need to have tomorrow's skills. And tomorrow's skills, I primarily, our soft skills will continue to be important. Our basic grounding that happens in the early years at schools and at your houses, your families, that will continue to be very, very important. Our Indian culture, our ethos, our spiritual touch will continue to be even more important. But now, in addition to that, what is needed is that e-learning, e-touch, and in fact, that's already happening. You see a kid of 2 years old, of 4 years old, they can possibly operate, if not the laptops, all your iPads and iPhones better than maybe some of us. So this is happening, but this has to now become a part of the education. I only would, speak out from the experience of higher education. Most of the people in higher education have been talking about it, but very few have really been able to do that as of now. Of course, as I mentioned, it's becoming an essentiality. We have all been talking about Industry 4.0. And till some time back, it was only considered that Industry 4.0 is a part of the engineering institutions. While I have always said that it's a part of every education bit. It may be commerce, it may be management. And because, since I've been a part of the Government of India for 37 long years, so you could see how the things are going to change. And otherwise we were an MBA college, so I would have carried on with the old skills. But we got into technology and e-learning, I would say 5 years back in a very big way, when we started a full MBA into digital. And 4 years back, we started a full MBA into data science. Questions were raised at that time as to why HR, marketing, finance are beautiful specializations, why are you going there? Especially institutions like us do not get extra seats like universities. We have fixed number of seats to take every year. But still we introduced new specializations because we knew that the world is going there. And that is why I'm grateful Rajat ji has been picking up our students every year, because we are trying to make a difference all these years. And how it is helping, I'll just take 5-7 minutes depending upon you. And Sangeeta, please let me know when I have to stop, because we have so many things to say on this very subject.
No, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. You know, in 2017, our Prime Minister introduced the concept of Smart India Hackathon. And Smart India Hackathon is done by all the engineering institutions of the country, where the problems of the various ministries of the Government of India are taken to schools and colleges, and they give digital and e-answers to those problems. And would you believe, we were the only MBA college, plus one more in Mumbai, who were called by the government to become a part of this e-revolution or digital revolution. And 2017, 2018, 2019, the Honorable Prime Minister has been addressing our students along with students of other institutions, participating institutions, on the e-platform every year. And this year too, it had to happen in April, then May, and then June. And last week it was announced it's happening on 1st and 2nd of August. And we are the only MBA college this time in the country who have been chosen for this. All other, of course, are engineering institutions. So why so? I would say that every bit of management education, it may be your marketing, it may be your branding, it may be financial subjects, they have to be now based on technology, and technology has to be embedded into them. There was earlier feeling that all these things would be run by engineers in various corporate houses. But the manager who's selected for the job needs to know that technology. Otherwise, he or she will be of no use to the company. So we have been able to put all those things into place, and that's the reason when the Honorable Prime Minister announced the lockdown on 24th of March, our final exams were slated from 26th of March. So, we could see around 20th that it's going to happen. So would you believe there were two options? Either we postpone the exams like almost everybody else did, or we carry on. And within 48 hours, we put all our systems into place. We converted all our question papers and answer sheets to digital form. We conducted exams in time. We started next semester, third semester in time. And today, all our 480 students, every student after first year of MBA has to do summer internship with one or the other industry. So today, all our 480 students are doing not one but 2 summer internships in virtual mode with best of the companies. So I just want to tell you that culture of the recruiter has changed a very big way. Recruiter told us that we want to do only summer internship. And they have been so very happy because our faculty is in touch with the students and the industry mentor every Saturday. And they have been saying that e-internship is as relevant or as useful as the physical internship was. So I'm only trying to tell you that every subject has to be having not just technology as a component, but we have to see how technology will shape after 5 years or 10 years. Today, the new world has already born, and this world is going to change every year, every 2 years in a very, very big way. And we teachers have to keep big pace with that. I would like to, pass on the baton to others now. I can always come in whenever you want, but I only want to say that all kinds of teaching, learning, even interviews today, recruiters are holding e-interviews today. They're holding video interviews today. Rajat ji would know it. Okay. So the thing is that physical thing would continue to stay. Yes, we are missing the warmth of each other. We are missing up our teas and coffees and lunches and dinners together, seeing movies together. That's a part of school, college, essential part of our life. That part is also equally important. But e-learning, it has to be there. It's a future now. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. For actually showing us the future roadmap. This is actually like that. And as you very rightly said, from 2017, when you actually started getting into proactively into e-learning, and we could see how. So, sir, would also want to put a question to you. So, do we say it like this, that as it came in from the All India Survey of Higher Education, that India is actually entering into that whole era of massification of education? So, do you see that this is exactly you think is going to be the way forward?
Please repeat the question. I think exactly.
Like the massification of education, like it is going to be from to every part of India, irrespective of the economic strata, irrespective of, really getting into the rural India as well.
Obviously, this online learning platform has opened up that floodgate. You just have to have the e-connectivity with you. Otherwise, now all learning, Government of India has provided various platforms. And those platforms and the modules there have been prepared by top professors of IITs and IIMs. Okay, and now similarly, online learning and modules, even by, I won't name anybody, but best of the education providers, they have slashed the rates in a very, very big way, and everybody has to be getting into that. Because every day new things are coming. My only emphasis is every third day you have to learn something more. And that something more has to be obviously learned online. That has become a part of it, and you'll be surprised to, I shouldn't be telling you, our, getting into e-mode or e-mode examinations was discussed in the Government of India and the Ministry of HRD in the month of April. They were still struggling as to what exactly and how to do it. And I got a call, I don't want to name all the people, from very, very senior people, that we are having a meeting with the Minister's office. And please tell us what platforms did NDM use for the examination in the digital mode. So I'm just telling you, we still need to do a lot, we still need to work a lot.
Right. So a lot of learning there. So let me bring in quickly Rajat sir. I'd like to put my next question to you. As sir said, a lot of learning needs to go into this. A lot needs to be innovated and invented. So yes, on the same note that, because in the light of the dictum, when we say that mother is the need of any kind of invention, so need to understand from you that, what are the actual wider implications of emergence of e-learning as the new norm in the prevailing scenario for the nation as a whole?
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you, Dr. Bansal. Always a pleasure listening to you. And I hold NDIM in very high regard, because I feel a lot of institutions, especially higher education, need to work closely with the industry. And I think that is something which has been your focus.
Yeah.
Your son and your daughter both are involved in the business, and all of you speak the same language. That's phenomenal. And
thank you so much.
Mehndi Hassan ji has also joined us from Bangladesh. Mehndi Hassan ji, welcome.
Wow, it's a pleasure.
So,
thank you, Mr. Rajat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Sangeeta, to answer your question, the experts are here. I'll be honest with you. But yes, from a media and a research company, let me share that, how we have adopted to e-learning is also, has not been easy. I mean, yes, we've adopted, we've adjusted, but the evolution process has been extremely long. It's only in the 1980s that the first personal computer came. The early 90s, the internet came, and 2000 was the .com, and also the invention of multimedia, and 2010 onwards, we came on to Web 2.2, 2.0, etc. So, technology has reached at this stage after a long process of evolution. So it's not easy that, we all are sitting here talking on a platform, or, e-learning is happening on laptops or iPads. It's not been that easy. There has been a huge evolution. And I feel that this evolution, now having said this, e-learning has always been there as well. You know, distance learning programs were based on the e-learning format or the online format. So it's always been there. So yes, I think a point of discussion that all of us are trying to make is that yes, you know, the pandemic has created an opportunity where honestly we had no other option, right? Having said this, like Dr. Bansal also mentioned, the examinations were not postponed. Similarly, you know, this happened in various institutions where exams were due in March, April, not only higher education and schools as well. So things have not stalled. So, and I think as part of the industry, as part of the education sector, as part of the larger economy as India, it was important that the pandemic would not let us stall, you know. So I think e-learning has been adjusted, has been accepted. We all mentioned and talked about that the early classes, you know, kids have become extremely well versed with technology, whether it's a laptop, iPad, etc. I think that is also a process of evolution. So I think overall it's better for the industry, better for the education sector. Yes, also, you know, how are the absorption levels of each student? That's also important. I honestly feel at the K-12 level, or you know, we also come from a background where we've been publishing books for the education sector. Now, if you know, you start teaching from a book on a camera and you feel that the kids are going to have the same absorption level, it's impossible. So yes, what are the other tools that the education sector is bringing in? You know, which means today it's easy to share a multimedia presentation. You shared a video a couple of minutes back on one of the promotions that is going to come. So what are the other tools that need to be acquired? And honestly, the big tool here is the, you know, respected teachers, you know, who were not, you know, who didn't have the time to be taught how to teach online. You know, so having said this, there are a lot of nuances. These nuances, I feel, need to be discussed today if this medium needs to be adopted for a long term. And honestly, if it's a cost saving tool, you know, if it, you know, let's not talk about costs actually, but if it helps in a larger absorption, you know, for the learners, then why not? And you know, later maybe I'll also say for us it's been a transition because primarily Asia One has been a print media industry, but this pandemic taught us that you know, let's go digital, you know, and let's see the transition and how we can evolve, because our focus was to obviously spread our message to a larger audience. And we feel now that you know, digital broadcast obviously have a larger audience, you know, so let's evolve. So from an industry perspective, I think you know, like Dr. Bansal also said, the government has been doing a lot. The e-learning program has been there, it's nothing new, you know, but yes, it's being adopted today. Our entire so many companies, our entire workforce is working online, so it's not only students. So let's see what are these nuances, what are the new tools which are required to make this a complete platform. I think that's the real question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta.
Thank you, sir. And how beautifully put it. Yes, new tools, new nuances really need to be taken care of to bolster this entire virtual education. And at Asia One, friends, you're seeing it. And I'd also want to put it across to our leaders that from the time of the lockdown, we started with our web series creator to reach out to the nation, and that has been our continuous endeavor. And we've tried to be there, making it a point that yes, we are able to reach out to our followers, to all the people out there who really, you know, really have been following us up on the print media. So, and of course, a big gratitude to all the leaders who've enriched this platform for us. Thank you. With that, you know, let me bring on Miss, you know, Dr. Periwal here, ma'am. From you, you know, Rajat sir did make a mention that, you know, in terms of a lot of human touch, in terms of, you know, at times it is important to understand that how a teacher, you know, our students do have the hands of experience of mobile and technology, but could be good teachers. You know, coming to you, that you know, while there are technical aspects of learning like maths and science, they're pretty easy and maybe better suited to conduct online lessons. But how do you really ensure the creative and the social aspect of learning, you know, are actually delivered in a holistic manner online, as well as be it writing or music or craft? How do we take care of these? Ma'am, could you just unmute yourself?
So I totally understand the value of a human teacher. Technology does not replace that. But understanding the constraints that we have, we must quickly adapt to newer methods. And it's not science or math that can be taught better. Anything and everything can be taught through e-learning. Look at the Google Classroom, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and any of these platforms, if you're using it to the full potential, like Jamboards, Kahoot, we did a virtual art exhibition on Jamboards, where every kid drew their artwork and putting it on the Jamboards. And we had a virtual art exhibition. We've had competitions where there's been a debate, where you're able to rebuttal. We have rooms, the technology is really advanced, that in a group of 25 children, you divide them into 5 different groups and they go into different classrooms, even if they are sitting far away, and they collaborate and they find solutions as a team and put forward. Since we've been leveraging technology for a very, very long time now, so our teachers very quickly adapted to this change, and they were very comfortable with the softwares, and they taught the children also to engage and embrace. And you'll be surprised that even the little ones, they learn it very, very quickly. And as most people find screen time too tough and screen time for too long, there's been such research done that when you're teaching and learning, it is active learning. It's not like watching a movie which becomes addictive and which is passive learning. Here you're engaging with one another. So it really is not harmful. Any change and we resist. So my plea to everybody is that don't resist a change. Adopt it. Immerse in it. Engage in it. And see how quickly your children also adapt. When you're taught online or offline, there is a difference, but it isn't always to a disadvantage. It can become advantageous also. There is no disturbance in class. There is nobody looking here and there. There is nobody who's bunking school, because parents are aware whether my child is sitting in front of their computer screen or not. And you'll be amazed, when I tell you that the Microsoft team, what they are studying with new modules of conducting classes, examinations, assessing classwork, leveraging and fully understanding artificial intelligence is the key. Currently, artificial intelligence is being developed, which will give us an incredible information about every child. During which part of the class they look disinterested, which mode of study increased their attention, was it visual, was it auditory, was it kinesthetic? So we've all read about Howard Gardner, right? But now the critical data, once carefully studied, it be math, science or English, we can empower children in every field. There are debates happening, there are story sessions happening. You can pause, ask questions, I didn't understand. You can further explain. It can be one-to-one learning even after a class is gotten over. So it's beautiful, and we must understand this is the new world. If you're not going to embrace it, you'll become like the dinosaurs, which will become extinct. Any school or any parent or any educator who feels, no, this is not what I really wanted to do, too bad. World is changing. Adopt, evolve, and engage with the children, and you'll see wonderful results.
Wow, how beautifully put up. Yes, evolve, engage. It is very, very important. With that, let me bring on Mehendi Hasan sir into the conversation. Taking it from where Dr. Periwal left. I mean, she's been talking about the human touch. She did briefly make a mention on reducing the screen time, and that's what my next question to you now. I mean, when we actually think that education moves online, there is a change required in how the educational textbooks are published too. So do you think that if maybe there should be a QR coding to transfer the content online, so students will actually have a healthy mix of, studying online, reducing their their screen time as well? So you need to just unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Nice question. And you see that new technologies have transformed industries across this world. But there are very few sectors that have been more impacted by technology than the publishing industry. And the internet also has changed the learning technology. And as a result, many Western educational institutions we see are now swapping traditional books for the modern computer or smart devices, as we see, in a limited way. And for this reason, we are looking at how traditional books and digital technology has and will continue to shape publishing technology. The QR code, it can be integrated, as you see the technology, this can be integrated into the books, and this code can be scanned to access the content such audio and visual contents, and the content will be continuously updated, so differently content can be accessed through the same QR code. And I will prefer to include like a dynamic QR code could be great help as students, as it will combine technology with their normal studies to provide a more depth in view of subjects. And South Asian countries mostly rely on books and written medium or education. So the QR code can be a good bridge between the technology and the existing methods of studying. The change would be easy to grasp and easy to use as well. So however, the content and the management of media displayed has to be maintained consistently in order to provide up-to-date data and information relevant with the times. In countries like Bangladesh, the government actually provides all the books for free, and this will be hard for them to carry a high cost for the production and distribution of such books. And in a simpler word, this can be done by the private sector in much more efficient and productive manner. As you see, you all are from India, and the textbook industries has grown in a significant way as government allowed private sectors to invest extensively, also got huge foreign investment and spent millions on R&D and transformation on digital platforms. And also in Bangladesh, we have requested recently to the Ministry of Education and other concerned ministries to consider publish textbooks in private sectors so that we can invest more money on quality content, R&D, distribution, and online platforms that will not only ensure the quality of books but ensure lower price for the students. And of course, the screen time, as you are talking about, the digital, the blending, it's very much required. And as she was telling that the students are very much enjoying this change, and they are very quick to learn the technology more than us, because we are now, we have to learn actually, but they are very much used to the iPhones and the gadgets and devices they are changing. We don't know, like it came as a Kindle and later it changed to iPhone and Galaxy or something, some other devices. But for private publisher market, right from the start of the digital education or e-learning value chain, the content production has been enhanced through the evolution of cloud technology. I want to say it like A, B, C of DE. That means A for AI, artificial intelligence, B for big data, C for cloud computing, and these all for DE, digital education.
Wow.
So this is how we want to evolve for this. We had target until 2025, but now for COVID, we are sure that we are going to introduce all these very soon. By 2 months, it will be there. And I will talk about this more, but I want to say that the ranging innovative solutions and tools that utilize cloud-based applications through to content encoding, packaging, and distribution at the other end of the media. This is a value chain. We have to remember that we are gaining a better understanding of consumer behavior through the power of big data, insights, and increasingly AI-based e-learning system that start with the recommendation and carry the journey on through marketing and subscriber retention. Because there are 25 million students in Bangladesh and India, there are also large population. We see large students are there, but there is a language variation which we don't have here. We have only Bangla and a unique language. So it's all over the country, only one language mainly. I will say mainly 98% people use this language, and this change is an ongoing evolution and not an overnight journey actually. So yet the widespread use of open standards and strong competition among hyperscalers or the related technologies suggests a very healthy future for the entire academic publishing ecosystem. New areas such as real-time game-based education or streaming-based learning system, like she said, my previous speaker says about the digital Microsoft and Google and Zoom, some other tools. These are, I think, only the video conferencing like we are doing now. But for Mr. Rajat says, the main taste of class interaction, it is still we are looking for some tools that is that can be actually replace the current system, and textbooks, of course, and such kind of thing can be moved to this technology, and it will take time. I think by this end of this year, we will see kind of like this technologies which actually fits it perfectly. And 360-degree video learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, and interactivity, moving from concept to viable service in months, not years, through the ability to build, test, and scale made easier through the ABC learning platform. That means AI, big data, and cloud computing. So we will look further. We will look forward for this, and I hope textbooks and everything will remain, and the publishers' creative contents and the other contents will always be evolving through the digital online system, and it's easier for us as well, more than printing the books.
Thank you for actually simplifying it to us. So we actually understood the ABCD of e-learning, I must say. So yeah, thank you for giving us that information. Wonderful. That is, and yes, that is the way forward, and we're seeing it all. And very quickly, let me bring on Biju sir. Biju sir, we've been talking about tools, nuances, we've been talking about technology, information. From you, I need to understand a little more on the mindset of a child. When you saw these children, when we spoke about e-learning, were they able to kind of adapt very, very swiftly to the new norm? And did it take different level of motivation from you, from your institute, to kind of get them into that alert mode, that active mode when we are teaching them online?
Thank you, Sangeeta. Yes, the challenges were there for all the people concerned. You take the students, you take the teachers, the school leaders, the parents, everybody had faced challenges in adapting to the new norm of learning through this digital platform. But having said that, I think the people who had the least problem adapting to it, I would say, were the students. The teachers, of course, had their challenges. They were not used to constantly being monitored or having a sense of being watched at all the time. That was definitely disconcerting for them. They got used to it. But you take and of course, they're having to learn how to deliver the content in a different medium, right? And they're used to seeing the students, seeing the reactions, and teaching them and everything. Now suddenly it's a very different platform, and we have to have teachers from 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds that are learning new things and how to deliver the content in a more effective fashion. It was a learning curve. You take the parents, I think they had a severe handicap in the sense that now they had these children at home all the time. and that's not something they were used to. So what do you do with all these children not only asking for your attention, but also wanting to be in the classroom, especially the younger ones? It's definitely been a challenge for the parents as well. And for the schools, it is not just about delivering the content, but also finding out whether it's reaching. Is it reaching? Are we able to assess the children? Are we able to understand whether the classes are productive? All that challenge is there. And the students, I think, were the ones who adapted to it the fastest. Because like somebody said earlier, I think Dr. Bansal mentioned it, the younger ones these days, they take to technology like fish to water. It's not a challenge at all. The adapting to the technology was not the challenge. The challenge, I think, which they probably are only starting to realize now, the students, is that whether am I learning, right? Adapting to the new medium, learning, listening to the class, responding to assignments given, all that. Yes, it's easy for them to do, but am I learning? That is something that the students will slowly start realizing that it is different now. That is the challenge for the teachers to make sure that the learning happens. But I think Dr. Bansal touched upon this, that every day, every 3 days, we have to learn something new as adults. And therefore, if the fourth R, you talk about reading, writing, the skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. The fourth R, in my opinion, that we need to make sure that the students and learners of today come out with, skilled with, is the skill for relearning. That's extremely important, not just for the students of today, but also the adults, as we see. The teachers had to relearn how to teach, right, through this new media. Similarly, the students realize that, and the world today is changing so fast. As you go into the work environment, things are changing so fast. What you learned yesterday, like Dr. Bansal said, is suited for the needs of yesterday. What we need to do tomorrow, we need to learn it again today. Not only learn new things, but relearn what we already learned. So that is extremely important. And that, I think, this change, what COVID has done is actually brought it upon us and made it evident to us much faster than it would have otherwise been made evident to us. So it has necessitated the fact that the students have to now start learning themselves. The skill of learning is more important than all the other 3 R's. So it's not just about teachers giving them information, but imparting the skill of how to learn something on their own. And that is now necessary through this new platform, through digital learning. And they will require that skill faster than we could have otherwise done if we had them actually in classrooms, in physical classrooms. And in terms of motivating them to stay engaged in learning, I would say we were in the process of implementing a learning management solution before COVID struck. And it was an AI-enabled, I think Dr. Jayashree mentioned about artificial intelligence impact on learning management. So we were in the process of implementing an AI-enabled learning management software called iLearning Engines. And COVID kind of, again, accelerated that process. And what that does is actually reward the students while monitoring how the child learns, while figuring out what are the methods which is more efficient for the child to learn. What it also does is reward the child for being engaged. So whether it's a question of attending classes, live classes, or whether they review the material that has been given to them, or take the quizzes that has been given, or take the quizzes that is embedded in the videos that you give them, all those gives them learner credits. And these credits become the motivation for them to stay engaged on the platform. So it's not just about attending a video conferencing call or a class, but it's also about remaining engaged on that learning management platform, so that it's not just about watching a TV or a class, but it's also about absorbing what is the learning that they are supposed to absorb. So that has been the way that we've been able to engage the students. We started the online classes in April. It's been going on. It's a learning curve for all of us. Nothing is perfect, obviously, yet. So we are getting there. But really, what I'm glad that this has happened now, because it will. It's probably a bad thing to say that I'm glad this happened. But what I'm saying is, I'm glad that this change has been brought upon us now, because it is necessitating the changes that had to come anyways. It has accelerated the process. So yes, that's how we've been viewing this.
Everybody was looking forward for this change. Somewhere it was underutilized, and I think this crisis, like every other crisis, will always bring something more along with it. A lot of opportunities, a lot of innovation, and we've seen a lot of acceleration into the online learning, which I think somewhere deep down, everybody, it was very much there. Everybody wanted to do it, but I guess now we've only seen that it has just happened, and it has kind of happened overnight, kind of a thing, to an extent that we've started adapting to a new normal. That is the way. Well, I would like to bring in Dr. Sharma here. So we've been talking about training teachers, imparting them the right skills to keep students engaged. We've just heard Biju sir talk about, great, ways of keeping students engaged and active, and a lot of motivation from you. Do you think it also needs to involve and train parents, that they have become a very important part now while we are getting into online learning? And what is that your institute has been doing to facilitate this?
Thank you very much, Sangeeta, for giving me this opportunity. Certainly, this technology is the new normal now. And this pandemic has brought all these changes, and we've started understanding it. Parents now have a very important role to play. For e-learning to be successful, the students, teachers, and parents, they all require to adjust to these new routines. Parents can offer important guidance to students need during this e-learning. Studies show that there's a direct positive correlation between parent involvement and the student success. This could probably be said that both the classroom learning and the virtual learning, they are very important. But the connection to online classes right now is very clear, that the children are understanding. The parents over there, they are monitoring the system. And simply put, to virtual classes work better when parents take an active role in their child's education. There are several ways that the parents can get involved. They can help the child to create and stick to a new routine, which means that a proper routine for the child is set up. The schedule is there, online classes schedule is there, which the schools are providing to the parents, and then it becomes a responsibility of the parents then. Just to ensure that the students, they are attending, or the wards are attending the classes on time. Children are watching the videos, and are they doing the work on time, the worksheets which are being provided, the support material which is provided. So the parents definitely, they get involved in it. Also, I would say the parents have to designate a workspace for the child, which is very important, because earlier it was a classroom, physical classroom which was available. Now a similar type of a physical classroom the parents have to provide them at home. So that environment has to be there, very conducive environment has to be there. Their daily and weekly monitoring again becomes very important. So a physical presence of parents can be very, very helpful. When we talk about the daily and weekly monitoring, now the problem may be there that the parents are busy. If the parents are busy, they will have to sit with the child to find out what the child has been doing, and what type of assignments have been given, what type of videos the child is watching, so all these things now the parents will have to learn that. A lot of time is spent on, earlier the children were spending time on playing games, etc. But now with this e-learning platform that's being provided, and the teachers are providing all the support system, because the teacher support will always be there. So finally, the parents have to be told, and they have to be trained that yes, without their support, the child will not be able to do better. The parents have to be an encourager and a motivator to the child also. Being a positive encourager is possible. And most important role of the parent in a virtual school setting, it is very, very important that the parent encourages the child. Earlier, the parent always used to ask the teachers to encourage and motivate the child. Now here the role is being played by the parents. They need to praise the child, they need the success of the child, they need to praise the success of the child, and also whatever the good work has been done. When we are saying that the grades have to be, grading is done, so the child has to be appreciated. A proper work environment has to be provided by the parent. A lot of positive things and that the child is accomplishing, they have to be again and again, the child has to be told about it. When you are helping a child to understand the concept or complete assignments, be encouraging with giving answers also. The parent needs to do that. They are actually a coach for the child. So the total mentoring of the child will now depend upon the parents, and for which the parents have to be prepared. At the same time, the parents and the students both, they have to be well connected with the teachers. The parents have to maybe weekly, maybe daily basis, they need to find out some time where they can interact with the teachers, because teachers will still play a very, very major role in the success of the students. So those interactive sessions, lot of parents, they because of their busy schedule and all, they try to avoid these interactive sessions. Now it will become very important for the parent to attend those interactive sessions, and so that they can stay connected with the teachers. So training of parents for e-learning is an important tool then, or is very much required. And also what I would say, how do we train them? So we have the platforms are there, whether they are using the Zoom platform or the Google platform. The parents have to be told. Online training by the school can, and the institutions, they can facilitate the online trainings. So training can be given through a video and interactive session. We can have an interactive session with parents, direct interactive parents, interactive sessions. Brief them about what's going on in the online classes, what assignments have been given to the students, how to access them, how to submit the assignments. All these the parents could be told about. So that is how, and certainly the parents, there's a major role which the parents will have to play now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And how rightly did you put that up, that yes, it's equally important to now engage with parents, make sure there are tools available to also train parents, because they are going to be a very driving force in terms of getting these students be into that discipline and environment of online learning. Thank you so much. And I know that Dr. Bansal, sir, I'm so sorry you have to leave, but I'm just going to put one more question to you and your final words on this webinar. We have been talking about embracing e-learning. Need to understand from you that, how do we really strike the right balance in e-learning and that holistic field experience? What should be the setup now? So if you could just unmute yourself, sir.
Sangeeta and all other friends of mine, we are, as I mentioned to you, fully geared up. Our recruiters are fully geared up. As I mentioned to you, they're very happy with e-learning of the summer internships. And you'll be happy to know, yesterday I checked up all the details. Our student sitting in Merit is doing a virtual internship with a big company in Mumbai, and people sitting in Nagaland are doing a beautiful internship with people in Gurgaon or Noida. So that has become the new norm, and industries are accepting it extremely well. What is perhaps happening is that the mindset of still quite a big chunk of educators themselves, and also quite a lot of parents, is still taking time to change. So that seems to be a challenge, because from the educators one side, because as Rajatji mentioned, so many other friends have also mentioned, it is taking time for the faculty to really upgrade their skills or to be futuristic into their thinking and into their skills. So that is one gap which everybody is working at. Fortunately, as I mentioned to you, since we got into it very early, We do not find that kind of a gap at all. But most of the institutions are, struggling to meet that gap. And of course, students also, the mindset is taking time to change. The parents' mindset is also taking time to change, because most of them still are wanting to live in the world that was yesterday. We all have to be changing our mindset very soon. We just need to realize that it's not a change. It's the breakdown of the old thinking has already happened. Old systems, old thinking, all mechanisms, all of them have really become yesterday already. We are into a new world, and sooner the better. That's the only thing I would like to say to everybody. Learn from anywhere, pick up things from anywhere. I will only sound one caution that even most of the e-service providers, even they are not fully geared up to provide you the best of the service that you're looking for. Because we tried several of them. Okay, we virtually took a presentation for everybody in the last 100 days. So that's the only, caution that I want to sound. My colleague friends here, I'm sure they're doing the same thing. But yes, the right platforms and right service providers onto the e-space are also yet to emerge. That's the only thing I would like to, mention to you. And before you let me go, I send you a very warm invite to all the panelists over here. I'll send that note to Sangeeta ji just now, or Kirti, because I have heard details. We have a webinar with the famous Shiv Kheda starting 6 o'clock today. So I would like that anybody who wants to join, we'll keep our registration open. Please, it's all, we do all those things for free, because we feel that learning, if we have something, we need to take it to the whole world. So please join us. We'll be very happy. I'm sending the invite. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Rajat ji, for always being there. And thank you so much, Sangeeta, for making me meet my younger colleagues from whom I have to learn a lot in the coming days. Thank you so very much, and I'm sorry to be leaving.
Thank you, sir.
Early.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
You can tune in. Sir will be sending out invites. Shiv Kheda sir is going to be there, an amazing motivational speaker right there, inspiring us all. We wish you all the best with the webinar, sir, and thank you so much for once again joining us and enriching the talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So very grateful. Thank you so much.
Well, we come back to you, sir. So much has been already said on this particular platform. Well, my next question to you is, there has been a significant transition from print media industry as well as during the pandemic and even before. So what is your opinion on the same, and how do you categorize relevance or popularity when it comes to print, broadcast and internet news?
Yes, thank you, Sangeeta. That's my domain, so I'm good at this. But just before I start, I also wanted to talk to the other speakers, and it's been a privilege listening to you. And as a parent, I have this question as well to all of you. And so one question is that I had switched my kids' education to an international board, IB. And for this reason that, though I have been into the textbook business for 17 years, but I had switched to the IB curriculum for my own kids for a reason that the resources used for teaching are multiple, So there's not really a textbook, or there's not really a fixed, yes, there is a curriculum, but there is, as we are evolving, the resources are changing for teaching. And, some of, my colleagues here were mentioning that as a parent, also let me share. So I've been involved, and, two new terms which I learned, which might be known to all of you, but it was new for me, was the assess prep and the manage back, and basically, assess prep and manage back, are tools which are used for evaluation also, and all the resources which are being used to teach a particular subject, are also being put on kind of a dashboard. So I think all this is very important for a child as well. I believe Dr. Periwal wanted to add something. I could see her hand.
I was appreciating that, IB is a beautiful board, and it gives you a lot of freedom to learn.
Right.
It's not textbook, so you can go as deep as you wish to, and there's a lot of research skills that are embedded in the teaching, and I totally endorse the IB.
Thank you, Dr. Periwal. And as I was saying, you know, I've heard so much about you know, your school in Rajasthan teaching brilliantly, and you know, you look very young, but I know your son is as old and he's involved in the business very nicely. So I know you know, the school is reaching out to a lot of a large section of society as well. And though honestly, you know, I have, you know, studied CBSE and ICSE, and nothing against any board, but I just feel in current times.
Studied that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I just feel with the evolution of things, and you know, we are talking about a topic today which is relevant, and things have changed in just the last 90 days. So, you know, as a parent, my question later, and you know, wherever the other speakers who would now come on could address that, as a parent, you know, yes, these are these new tools which are extremely exciting. At the same time, my only question is that, and you know, some of you talked about it, that as parents, you need to be now also vigilant, you know, while these kids are taking their classes online. And at the same time, I feel that, you know, again, it's like, you know, both sides to it, you know. So you want to prompt the answer to your kids when, you know, you hear a question, or at times you want to, you know, tell them how to get involved. And yes, at times you want to motivate them to speak, you know, so that's also happening. And honestly, I'm sharing this from a very primary perspective, because I think these are the nuances which are there in the e-learning process, which, you know, need to be fought out and see what is the medium that should become a standard now. And I think this is important. My request is that, you know, the other speakers would later answer these questions. Sangeeta, I've really forgotten the question that you had said. If you can repeat the question for me.
I can understand. It's a parent right inside there, and you'd not want to miss out onto the opportunity when you have some amazing set of minds here, you know, to talk about it. So I'm sure now, you know, our teachers here, our you know, education heads here have kind of understand and relate a little more from a parent's perspective, you know, what could be the problems there. But yeah, so my question to you was in terms, you know, the, you know, from print media, the entire transition. So where do you really see from, you know, from publications to into print to now into internet news? How do you see this whole transition?
Thank you, Sangeeta. Exactly, you know, what I was saying earlier. So for us, you know, journalism has also transitioned. And, you know, like from classroom teaching to now e-learning, this transition is very similar, where initially journalism would be, you know, reaching out to a particular event and seeing what is being talked about and writing your own perspective, and yes, using certain resources. But, you know, transition from print to now digital media, and even if it's only print, because for us as Asia One, we were never focused on news, we were focused on research. And that helped us to give perspectives on what is, you know, the analytics of a particular news. And yes, the larger part of our business was to recognize brands and leaders from across Asia and take them to a, you know, story which would be recognized by the entire world. Because, you know, I firmly believe when you think of some of the biggest education brands, you start thinking about some of the American and the European brands. But when you think of educators, you know, India would have given the largest, if not the number one, but the second largest number, or maybe the first or second largest number of educators to these biggest brands. So, you know, why not also talk about these brands which you all have created and take your stories to the entire world. And for us, I mean, you know, for us, a transition from print to digital journalism, first of all, you know, going back and seeing, the transition is again very exciting, that, you know, the resources that can be used to present a news are multiple. And I think that change is very important. Again, you know, people who write for us, the editorial team existing, and a lot of content is outsourced, I'm being honest with you, not only by us, by any media house. And these are people who are experts, you know. So I do have, you know, deans of universities, I have deans of the IIMs, I have again, principals and vice chancellors who are writing for us, and that's there with every media house. And, getting them educated to use multiple resources to conclude an article or conclude a particular piece of news is a transition that we are also facing. And it's extremely exciting that, yes, this process of evolution has started. And, having said this, print to broadcast to digital. And I'm happy to tell you that obviously broadcast was number one when you talk about audiences. And, print was maybe number two, and then radio. And now the internet news is so high, it's almost competing with broadcast. Because as we have been talking for maybe the last 40 minutes, anything that happens in the world comes to your phone in seconds. So for people from the print media industry, it gets difficult to put that all into a story and present it to you in print. So definitely print media industry is evolving to digital and broadcast. And I feel, I compared that how maybe e-learning is also from textbooks to now e-learning is also a phase that we're evolving.
So you can pick up.
Thank you, sir. And as you said, that when we talk about the best universities, we talk about Cambridge, Harvard, we talk about, something that is international. And I guess when we are talking about our television series, it's a way to celebrate the emergence of India as the fastest growing economy in the world. And why not education? We have the institutes, we have some great institutes, universities out here, and I think it's time that we say our story out there on such platforms that are available to all of us here. So thank you so much for that. With that, Dr. Periwal, I'm going to bring you into the conversation. Well, before I put a question, I have got quite a few questions for you, and somebody wants to know that you did make a mention of some platforms like Jamboard and virtual exhibition. They also want to know a little more, on certain more platforms to actually engage and enhance children's capabilities. Ma'am, you need to just unmute yourself.
I hope they've heard of Kahoot also, where there are quizzes played and they just get checked and they come back to you. So it's a great tool for teachers. You can also make your own quizzes according to your own syllabi. You don't have to just pick up the quizzes that are available on Kahoot. You can do that. There are breakout rooms that I was mentioning. It's absolutely wonderful. And as Rajat, he has an experience of the IB education. There's a lot of collaboration that children must learn to engage with, because you don't always learn from one teacher. You don't always learn from one voice. You learn from different opinions. So you assimilate and you form and you become curious and you learn to understand somebody else's perspective. For that, you need to do collaborative work. So it's a great tool for the educators to use it with their own students. It's there in Microsoft. It's beautiful.
Kahoot indeed is amazing, ma'am. It's really, really beautiful. Even to Audience Engage, I've used that, and it's amazing how it kind of gives you a different level of engagement. Also, ma'am, somebody wants to understand, that when you talk about online, social media has always had its boon and curses, like we talk about science, So with students being such tech savvy out there, how as an institute, there is a responsibility that kind of lies upon you to make them aware of a lot of content which could be adverse to them, teach them the right skills. So what's been, what care has been taken there?
Lovely. So it's important that, you will have elements that could be harming students. Make sure, be alert, zoom them out of your meetings. If they just happen to intrude, you need to block them. The other thing is cyberbullying, which we must sensitize children. It's important to make them understand that what is right and what is wrong, and what is not so right, what is not accepted. Because a lot of time, for your color, for your hair, for your if you're a little fat, people learn to they make fun of you, which is downright not acceptable. So it's for us to sensitize our children. It is for us to educate our children that don't resort to things which is not acceptable. You cannot harm another child, another human being. It's not going to be taken lightly, and you're going to get reprimanded. There are beautiful labs now. You can do virtual labs online. It's a beautiful platform. You don't have to be physically going. It has a lot of security issues. You're not going to be touching chemicals that can be harmful to you. We're using it all the time, even for our junior children to our senior children. And technology is going to be a big boon for the underprivileged. It's going to be same education for everybody. You don't have to be rich or poor. It's going to become absolutely accessible, and it's not going to cost you as going to an elitist school. If you want to learn, nobody can stop you. This is the time where technology has become accessible. Smartphones have become accessible. People will invest in their laptops rather than investing in any other form. This one little device will probably have all the knowledge that you need. So I think it's going to be, it has its benefits. Though I again reiterate, you cannot replace teachers. You cannot replace humans. That their little nod, their little smile, their discerning eye, artificial intelligence cannot do. So it is a double-edged sword, but times to come, and please don't resist to change. My humble plea to everybody, that why do we always, the year computers came into the lives of children, the parents took a backseat. Hamare bachon ko, we are not going to let them see. That's not going to be, their eyes will get spoiled, their mind will get spoiled. It doesn't happen like this. The world has changed. We are not doing passive learning. It's active learning. Teach your children, teach your teachers to interact with children. Help them dance. Help them debate. There are so many things that you can do online. Resort to that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I love the passion with which you speak, and actually that shows. I wanted to ask you, I've been waiting. I love the virtual backdrop, and I know for sure I spoke to you. There is that school out there, and just a little bit of a thought that went into making this. I want you to share with us on this platform.
I took my architect to Orlando, and I told him that I want something like this, and he said it's not possible. So I said, it doesn't happen. Impossible to koi cheez hoti nahi hai. So for 1 week, he had a nice holiday. After that 1 week, he became so guilty. I've had a holiday, I've had too much fun, and yet I'm not able to produce. So out of that duress, he created this whole castle, and he said, I told him form has to become functional. And we created that. And in IB, you need different sizes of classrooms. Some are circular, some are straight, some are small, some are big. So just kind of fitted into my thought process. So don't
Dr.
give
Periwal,
up.
I was right. No, this is the Disney World castle.
Yes, I took him to Disney World, told him to dream. And I believe that there's nothing called impossible. Every time we think, how can such a thing happen? We will find solutions. Every time there is distress, there is challenge, we learn to overcome it. We are humans. We are bigger in our brains than any technology can. So learn to understand our own power and don't get bogged down by people who say, oh, you can't do it. You can. I like the Nike tagline, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, ma'am, I must say, this school has to be there on our stories and greatest brands and leaders. The world needs to know about this. Everybody needs to know about this. I mean, had I not seen this here on this particular virtual backdrop, I wouldn't really know what it looks like. And it's beautiful. It needs to be spoken about because, yes, as you said,
Thank you so much.
I am possible.
One has been very kind, and I've gone to Dubai for one of the awards that they were kind enough to present to me.
It's beautiful.
So thank you so much once again for recognizing that tomorrow's future is design, tomorrow's future is creativity, tomorrow's future is thinking out of the box.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you, Dr. Beriwal. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll come back to Mehdi Hasan, sir. Sir, from you, I need to understand some of the best tools, technologies, and softwares that are helping the expansion of e-learning. So could you just unmute yourself, sir?
Thank you, Sangeeta. This was very timely questions after all these discussions. So see, we are a publisher, and from publishing point of view, I would like to draw attention to technologies and tools that we are available before pandemic. You have seen companies like Google, Apple, Amazon. They started their platform from books and ebooks. However, from my perspective, though they address the creative book and content market to a great extent, however, was not successful enough in academia. The main reason behind is the tools and technology that are available till today cannot actually comply 100% with the classroom. The classroom environment is different, and the teaching or learning practices similar to educational institution. On the other hand, there are some big OEM brands, for example, Microsoft, Samsung, Hitachi. They are all working hard to come up with their innovative products to fit the classroom environment. As Mr. Rajat says about ManageBack, in our school, in Dhaka International School, ISD, so we use the same thing for IB education. And this is actually creating the same page things, helps guardian to come to the same page as of the institution and teachers. But I must say, there is really a big gap for multimedia content to be used with those environments. Lack of interactive e-learning content in classroom environment is a big barrier to the digital classroom environment become fully usable. The companies like Adobe and Unity have developed some good tools that are helping comparatively better in the context. Above all, one thing we must say that if we have the smartest technology without the proper academic people trained and associated with the section, it would really be difficult to see e-learning in action. And even my personal opinion, I want to give more priority to quality of a people than the quality tools here. As Ms. Beriwal says, the teacher cannot be compared with the other things or like tools. We have already seen how people embraced and used WhatsApp, Zoom to address e-learning during this pandemic situation. Due to sudden hit from COVID-19, the ideal technology or best one you asked me, I believe is yet to come, as Mr. Rajat says before. We have examples like Byju's in India, Khan Academy in international English-based language arena, and our similar initiative in Bangladesh, which is known as Orfi.com, O-R-F-I, you can see that. And you will see all of those solutions are coming from academic backgrounds. The founders were just teachers, and the publishers like us, who are possibly most valuable contributor in this whole e-learning ecosystem. They were not high-tech companies like Google, like Byju's was not a company like Google, Apple, or Microsoft, but they become successful. They doubled their valuation in last week, $10.5 billion from $5.4 billion, as you know, because they knew the expectation and learning outcome as per the syllabus variations compared to the more than any others in tech industry. They adopted technologies, whatever was available in that time. And to address the academic need, they did their best. For our local solution to 25 million students in Bengali, we are no exception in creating a platform, academic digital learning through an innovative artificial intelligence-driven learning app named Orfi. And I feel the need for the support system and from the big tech companies to be partnered with the EdTech ventures for delivering the best tools and technology for academia. E-learning is an educational technology thing, so naturally educational comes first, and which strengthen itself more blending with this kind of technologies. Finally, this is a new world and it did not exist before, A new economy is coming. We all need to adapt to this new world and new economy. A new economy is very threatful to some people like who are in traditional business. We all need to adapt to this situation. The new world is not about the power. This is for survival, help, support, showing sympathy to each other, showing empathy and compassionate to be each other. The new economy will be for digital entrepreneurs for sure. Technology, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, and sets of such new skills will be required. The traditional business, job, and entrepreneurship are not going to work anymore like before. So it's time to change and grow, and we will see a lot of tools coming. I will say, just wait for the right tools, and it will, we used old OS systems before. Now see, the Mac OS and the other OS has developed so more. They have built in a lot of things like ManageBack, like the quiz system she talked about. So lots of things has to be implemented at the same time, same place, but you cannot detach teachers from there. So maybe the biggest companies in the world have to merge with us, like publishers and teachers, who knows the things from very core of the heart. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Every time you join us on the webinar, you only enrich us. It is wonderful to have you back with us again. Thank you. And yes, learning is an experience. Learning will be a process. And I guess that is the new normal. With that, let me bring in Biju sir back into the conversation. Biju sir, going ahead, do you really think that schools will be open to more hybrid mode of learning?
Oh, for sure. I don't think that's a choice going forward. Some schools will adapt it sooner, some will adapt to it later, but I think they all will, because that's going to be the new norm sooner rather than later. And like I said earlier, the COVID has basically accelerated.
Are you there with us?
It has accelerated that. It's brought it upon us sooner than we thought or expected. So the main thing is, I think the way it's going to be going forward in this hybrid learning is that the older the child is, I think the child is going to be spending less time in physical classroom and more time online or off the school campus learning. So the way that I think it's going to get divided is students will gather information. I don't think students today need the schools to give them information. There was a time when the school was about teaching, about giving them information. It's no longer so. The information is available anywhere, anybody wants it. So you don't need a school for students to gather information. So that they're going to do on their own. What they will need schools for would be to practice the skills or the knowledge that they've learned, to put that into practice for labs, for sports, for social interaction. Those are the things they will need the schools for. So as the younger children will obviously, I think in my opinion, will spend more time in school physically, but as the child gets older, I think we'll go from a 6 or 5 day week to probably a 3-day week in school. The rest of the time, they'll probably end up doing a lot of learning outside the school, and they will come to school. So the flipped classroom model is going to become more and more relevant and more used by schools going forward. And that the advantage of that is going to be that the learners of tomorrow are going to be equipped with the ability to learn on their own. And that is the skill that is going to be the bigger takeaway for the students from the school, so that they take it forward with them and use that skill to learn everything they need to know, they need to learn on a daily basis. So technology is here, the need is here for hybrid learning, technology that is required for it is here, the students are primed for it already, the schools today have been forced to adapt to it and been forced to understand that this is required, and I think that's going to be the norm going forward. So schools are going to change from being a learning shop, right, a teaching shop, to more of a workshop where the students come to practice what they need to practice.
More skill development rather. Whatever knowledge you have, you put it into practicality, get them skilled.
Yeah, for collaborative project work, for lab work, some things that you cannot do online. Those kind of things you will need the school for. And of course, the physical interaction with the other human beings, the others, their peers, with the teachers. For that, they will need the school. And that is how schools are going to change. And I think the schools that will adapt to it the sooner will reap the rewards of it sooner, and the students who are in those schools will reap the rewards of that sooner, is what I feel.
Viju sir, we also have a question. I mean, we want to know that once everything really gets back to, the normal, maybe not the old normal, but, people start stepping out, schools start reopening. Do you think there's some kind of a fear that has already creeped into parents? Do you think they'll be a little averse in sending students back to the actual classroom learning, and will it all be now limited to virtual learning? Are we seeing that kind of a fear?
Well, that fear is definitely there. For sure that the fear is there. But I think that will go away once we find a solution. I think it's not just about schools. It's about everywhere. I mean, there is fear for everybody to go out and interact like before. But I think we will have a solution for that sooner rather than later. And that will drive away that fear. And I'm sure once that is there, parents will definitely want their children back in school, because that's not something any of us want to compromise on.
So while we are actually equipping ourselves to e-learning and virtual classrooms, and when we actually go back to the new normal and we could start with our classrooms, I think you're sanitizing, safety measures, that also becomes a big onus onto our schools, our universities, our institutions.
For sure, absolutely. And I think schools need to do that, whether even after we find a solution for COVID, those kind of measures should stay. That's here to stay, because you don't know when the next virus is going to attack us. So yeah, you don't know, because it's now becoming more and more frequent. So much rather that we have our precautionary measures in place for anything that the viruses are.
Ensuring the safety of the students and teachers and all the stakeholders.
That's going to be the new norm, yes, as well.
Thank you, sir. With that, Dr. Aditya, I'll bring you into the conversation back. And from you, we need to understand that. Do you really think e-learning has also some of its setbacks? We did speak in terms of content. Need to understand from you that how can students learn to be social and interactive if they're actually learning from a screen?
Thank you. Definitely, there are two sides of the coin. Where there are advantages, there will be some disadvantages too. And same would be there for e-learning. E-learning is not an exception. Now the setbacks, when you talk about setbacks like students' feedback, which the student can give in a virtual classroom, in a real classroom would be, the feedback would be much more, right? There will be a lot of interaction, face-to-face interaction in a traditional classroom is much more. Teachers can give the solution to the students immediately. Immediate feedback is there. There are students who are experiencing problems. For these students, there could be some extra classes arranged directly with the teacher. But in an e-learning problem, but I would say that there will be a solution also. The solution could be resolved if there's a good interactive online session with the students. A platform is there where the children can interact with the teachers. The students should also reach out to the teachers in case they're facing any difficulties in understanding things. E-learning can also cause some sort of social isolation. When there is a real classroom situation, they have got friends, they have got peer group, they have got teachers, they are talking to them, all that discussions can take place. But when it is the e-learning or the e-platform is there, yes, certainly the interaction would be less. So, but then there are smaller groups could be made where the children and the students, they can get together and they can talk amongst each other. So healthy interactive sessions that could be arranged so that the problem of isolation is curbed. Then also lack of self-motivation and time management skills would be there. When I talk about that, it means that among the students to continue, one of the primary reasons why students failed to complete their online tasks or attend online classes or be attentive in online classes. I mean, that would be a problem. They would not be able to do that. So again, what is the solution? The students need to constantly be motivated by the parents, teachers, and the peer groups. Again, I would like to emphasize on parents' involvement on deciding the daily routine and the child for the child, so that they can develop some time management skills. When I also talk about this e-learning setbacks, the communication skills. The communication skills are not developed in e-learning. The drawback of e-learning is that it lacks in developing communication skills of the students. Developing communication skills which is very, very important, because once the child is on his own, he should be able to communicate with the outside world. So collaborative learning has to be there. What could be the solution to it? Again, interactive session with the students. Teachers must organize some activities wherein each child is required to speak something. Maybe some small projects could be given to the children where they can collaborate with each other and then discuss. That is very important. We also, I also feel that there would be difficulty in preventing what we call as cheating we are talking about during the online assessments. But then there are solutions to it. Right. Yesterday only I was talking to someone. He said, what happens when we do PhD? There is no result. The end result we do not know. We write, we do a research, and finally we submit it. In the end, now suppose you've copied it down from somewhere, the end you have the viva, you have the orals. So you have to appear, you have to take that oral test, and once you take that oral test, you come to the examiner would come to know how much you know. So even if you have copied, you have to be the knowledge has to be there so that you can answer it, and the grading would be there. So again, teachers focus more on theory rather than practicals nowadays, while this e-learning sessions are going on. Rightly said by Dr. Periwal that there are labs. Beautiful labs are there. The students can go for that, and the virtual practicals could be done. So the teachers also, what is also important is that teachers have to be very, very active. They have to be innovative. Because teachers says if they're teaching, focusing more on theory, then finally what happens is these students, they get bored. And when they get bored, they bunk, they'll switch off the video mode and they'll move away. So that does happen. So the teachers have to take more pains now. And we can't ignore it. Online learning, another problem which is being faced is the problem of internet connectivity and all at different places. Some say that connectivity is not there.
Yes, asked us a question that into rural India, and also these gadgets could be expensive into rural India. There could be not much of digitalization. So how does one kind of adapt to the new normal?
Yes, so the problem of connectivity but to be honest, let me tell you, even the rural India, now people are using mobile phones. Right, they may not be smartphones, but they are using mobile phones. If the person is not getting connection inside his house, they will move out, sit somewhere on the road and find a place where the connection is there. So what we can do is, and most of them are using WhatsApp now. So WhatsApp is another platform through which that e-learning could be done. So that's, but solutions are there, and very soon, because since it is the new norm now, things would be changing, and very soon it would change. But then how can students learn to be social and interactive? That is another thing. Having online interactive classes, online sessions, keeping the video mode on. That is very important. Video chats with teachers and friends, chatting through chat box can be encouraged. We can have separate online meetings which could be conducted. We can have singing, dancing, all those quizzing competitions could be there. In fact, I'll share with you, coming 9th of July, in my school, I'm organizing a virtual foundation day. The school is celebrating a foundation day. So there are students who are preparing themselves with music, different instruments they are preparing, and there will be a jazz music show that we are trying to put in. Then there are dance which is being prepared. Okay, now dance is there's a video which is being you can say the track is being sent to the children, and with that we'll be compiling everything. So that's an online thing that we are trying to do it. So all these things are possible to have social and interactive way to get in touch with each other. Celebrating festivals. Online celebration of festivals can take place. Online discussions and debates. We can have recitation competitions. We can have art competitions. All these things are possible, and it would be good.
So yes, a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement needs to be the way as we get to the new normal. And like you very rightly said, talking about communication skills, so today I think I can speak so well because, all the debates and all the elocution competitions that I participated and spoke, in front of thousands and thousands of students, I think that really needs to be also implemented into the virtual way of learning. Thank you. Sir, your final words as we close this webinar, and I'm going to take like a minute from every, panelist from us. So yes, sir, your final words to all the students, the parents, and everybody who's watching us on web.
I would tell the students, parents, and everyone that have a trust. Have a trust in the institutions, have the trust in the school, have the trust in the teachers, and certainly the future is very bright. We have to adapt to the technology. That's the new norm, and it could be technology plus the classroom teaching, both go side by side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Biju sir, could I have the final words from you? And I hope you enjoyed being here with us on Web Talk series.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, Sangeeta. And my final words would be, this triangle of parent, student, and the school. We need to stay together and work together, collaborate together in these days of change, and understand what each of us can bring to the table, and cooperate with each other for the betterment of the student and betterment of the next generation depends on. So let's come together and like Dr. Aditya Sharma said, trust each other, find solutions together and move forward, because this change is there. Change is inevitable, change is upon us. Let us embrace it. Let's learn together, collaborate, and we grow together. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, change is like the constant variable, and here the variable is that you need to innovate, you need to keep learning, and you need to continue with the process of actual experience. With that, Mehndi Hasan sir, your final words to everybody who's here with us online and watching us.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you, Mr. Rajat, for thank you, Asia One Magazine, and I would like to say everyone who is watching the show. And if the discussion was based on current pandemic situation and how we overcome through e-learning, and I would like to ask everyone to keep trust on human being. We are doing much better and better every 10 years. The technologies are changing. Things will change. Things will keep changing. No worries. But human cannot be replaced, because if human eradicated, then everything is gone. So the laptops, the devices will change, but the teachers cannot be replaced, and the syllabus, the ministries in governments, they will take time to time required steps to make it easier for guardians. And I see my children are going, everyone's children are going to school. So as a parent, I have to, and my wife also have to give a lot of time to this. But I think within 2 years, things will change, and the guardians will get their own time, because We also see that now our children are reading in grade 2, 3, 4, and we also read with them, beside them. So we are again learning a lot of things with them. That's a good point, but of course it cannot be continued. So things will change. The learning management systems are evolving, and the tech giants, of course, will merge somehow with the people like us, with the Byju's, with the Orpheus, with the Khan Academy. Like these things will be coming on, and this will remain, of course, because once the virus or pandemic, people are used to it took like almost 3 to 4 months to understand what it is. And now people already know what it is. And people already know that after 1 month or 5 months, maybe the vaccine may come. It will take another 5 months, but after that, another virus, H1N1, H9N9, various codes, they will keep coming. And we cannot actually fight with virus all the time, going to taking all these hurdles. So we have to be in home safely in case of any kind of situation like this in future. So these things will remain. We will find solution alternative to this. And more important thing, as Ms. Periwal says, I would like to say this, that now it's the opportunity. Everybody is spending $5 to $500,000 for the children. But now everything will come to in the same platform. So education will be much more easier to access for everyone. And this is the chance that COVID has made this opportunity, but lives have to be saved. So stay home, stay safe, and keep trust. Thank you so much.
Wow. So a great blend, a great balance between virtual learning and of course our old ways of learning. So I think we are far more equipped right now, more empowered for a matter of fact, because now we have even this additional medium available to all of us, and that really doesn't hold us back. With Dr. Periwal, of course, the last and final words from the fairy world that you are, the fairy tale world that you are into.
Thank you. I feel it's going to be blended learning even if COVID moves away. And you never know, another second wave of COVID comes. So we all must understand that this technology is going to become an integral part. So let's find out what best can we do. You know, whenever there's pollution in Delhi, the schools close, please come on online. There are floods, please come online. Bangladesh has this so often. I'm sure Mehdi Hasan ji would agree with me that in, whether there are floods or there are storms or there are pollution level, let's resort to e-learning. So if it's 3 days of coming to school and 3 days staying back at home, so that kind of blended learning is going to be the future. What we can do, we must have online webinars for our children, get the scientists, get virologists, get entrepreneurs, get actors, get guest lectures to immerse. Let children hear voices. Let children hear opinions. They don't have to hear only one teacher's opinion. They have to hear the world to decipher and see what is important and what is not so important. So let's welcome technology in the coming world.
Thank you. Rajat sir, your message to everybody who's watching us online, and of course to all our panelists who've yet again enriched our Web Talk series for us.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank you all the speakers today, Biju ji, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Periwal, Mehdi Hasan ji. It's been a privilege, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this platform. And it's enriching for all viewers, I'm sure. And before I end, I think it's been enriching for me as a parent with so many educators on this platform. And I also wanted to share once again, the series that we are doing on CNBC TV 18 and News 24 now Bangladesh, and ZTV is extremely big for us, to have as a brand on board, because this is ZTV South Asia and Middle East. So this is a ZTV broadcast which is not India, but it reaches out to 10 countries in South Asia and the Middle East. And we are starting the Greatest Leaders and Asia GCC program on this ZTV platform as well. And all of you know South Asia and Middle East have a large Indian population and large Indian entrepreneur population, which needs to be recognized. And I'll request you all to watch our series, maybe be part of it, and it will be enriching for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to add one last line to Aditya Sharma ji. We just did Lion King virtually. Children sitting, and we have so many children now who joined our e-school, and so many from Dubai, from Mumbai, from Delhi, and we all produce Lion King. And
exactly. That is what we are also trying out over here.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A big thank you to all our panelists, our leaders. Thank you so much for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, that was Web Talk Series 13. You have heard, you've seen that our educators are completely prepared, completely empowered and equipped to bolster e-learning, to embrace it. Are you? With that, thank you so much. This is your host, Sangeeta Singh, signing off. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.